Peace. I am Philip Roundtree, and you're tuned to episode 32 of Hashtag You Good Man. Remember, hit that subscribe button. I know it's on one of these sides. Hit subscribe. It might be underneath. Hit subscribe. Share with a brother. Write a comment. Just so I know that the content that you're getting is helpful and useful. So I appreciate y'all always for tuning in. And so in this episode, we're going to be discussing the untimely death of John Singleton, famed filmmaker, director, who died earlier this week at the tender, and when I say tender age of 51. For those who've been living under a rock, John Singleton suffered a massive stroke last week. And that'll get us into the topic that'll come a little later when we talk about men's health, in particular high blood pressure, heart disease, and strokes. And what we can do is men to better our physical health. I know I talk a lot about mental and emotional wellness, but a component that's near and dear to my heart especially is physical wellness. So without further ado, for those who don't know John Singleton, he's such an amazing individual. He's a famed filmmaker, director, writer. He's directed some of my favorite movies like Juice, wrote and directed Baby Boy, which I still know lines, almost every line to the movie. He was the youngest filmmaker to ever be nominated for Academy Award for Boys in the Hood, which he's probably most known for. Again, he died at the tender age of 51. He's working on Snowfall, a series that's so amazing. He had such a keen ability to tell the story of black boy pain in particular, and what life is like growing up in places like South Central LA, right? For many of us who we heard about LA, but we had no insight into it until he brought Tupac along, right? And had him star in the movie Juice. Until we saw Boys in the Hood with Ice Cube, Cuba Gooding Jr., Morris Chestnut, so many people to name, and we got a glimpse into LA culture, something that me living on the East Coast I didn't have. And so with his death, especially with it being a product of a stroke, his family issued a statement. His family issued a statement urging black men in particular to go learn about their high blood pressure status. Now, his family, listen, they have a lot going on, right? They're now arguing over his legacy. They're arguing over his estate. Unfortunately, 60% of people in America have no form of estate planning. What is estate planning? Who gets what when you die? 60%. In the African American community, that's even higher. It's 70%. So you're saying 7 out of 10 people that exist right now that are alive who are black do not have a will. Listen, when I was reading about this, I'm like, yo, I have a daughter. I have a son. Something might happen to me. It might be untimely. I might not live until I'm 69. And you might be saying 69. Well, you know, that's the life expectancy of a black male in America, 69 years of age. I've already lived 11 years past my brother who died at 24. And so when I hear 69, I'm like, wow, that's soon. I'm 35. I'm halfway there. So I have to be mindful about, and I have to be responsible. We're talking about love. We're talking about, I have to love myself and love my daughter enough to not have her scramble for what happens when daddy's no longer here. So it doesn't look like the shit show that's happening with John Singleton, or that's happened with so many other families, regardless of race or ethnicity. And so back to the health component, his family urged people to, and black men in particular, to know their high blood pressure status, right? Because that's ultimately what caused his death. It also caused the death of Luke Perry. I never watched Beverly Hills 90210, but I knew who Luke Perry was. Him dying a few months ago at the age of 52. What do we need to know about men's health, in particular high blood pressure? Well, heart disease is the #1 killer of men, regardless of race or ethnicity. Another fact, 40% of black men have high blood pressure. And we need to understand the ethnic component that comes to it, because in black men, it's harder to control. See, white men, black men, once we know that we have high blood pressure, the statistics show that we're going to go get treatment for it. But it's more difficult to treat in black men. We're genetically predisposed to high blood pressure. There's studies that say that there's a gene that exists that make black people more salt sensitive. So a half a teaspoon of salt could impact your blood pressure by 5 mmHgs. Don't have me lying to tell you what mmHgs mean, but if there's an increase by 5, that's not good. Just by a half a teaspoon of salt, we're talking about a little salt packet, can increase it. So think about the foods that we eat on a daily basis that are high in sodium. I personally had a high sodium day yesterday, and I don't really monitor my sodium because I do a lot of working out, I do a lot of exercise, I drink a lot of water, and do things to that expel salt. But I had a little too much, and I had a headache in the middle of the night. And I know that I can attribute it to that because my salt intake was in the thousands and thousands of milligrams. So it's something to be mindful of, right? So when we talk about high blood pressure, we know that it damages blood vessels. It can cause kidney and heart failure, and as well as heart attacks and strokes. Again, John Singleton, Luke Perry, the #1 killer, regardless of gender, is heart disease. So again, we have to be more mindful. We have to understand the risk factors that influence that. So we're talking about a family history of high blood pressure, obesity. Those who know me in my younger life, I was obese. I was pre-diabetic at the age of 16. I didn't try and lose weight so I can get out of pre-diabetic status. No, I lost weight so I could fit into some guest jeans so I could be with the cool kids. They'd be like, yo, I got guessies too. That's what we used to call them, guessies. But I'm glad I had a goal. I'm glad I had something that I desired that impacted me losing weight. Because no doubt I was pre-diabetic. Probably had some blood pressure issues as a result. 1 out of 3 men have high blood pressure. 1 out of 3. Again, I'm no math person, but if it's 3 people there, right, 1 person is guaranteed to have high blood pressure. And so it's important to understand the risk factors that influence that. So again, as I said, obesity, a family history of high blood pressure, a family history of sleep apnea, diet. Again, I said what I had yesterday. I had a lot of sodium. Now imagine having this on a daily basis. Imagine not having access to fruits and vegetables. That the nearest produce store is a mile away. Yeah, we're not as active as we once was. We're the most obese country, right? So the odds of us going there are slim to none. And we talk about a family history of chronic kidney disease. Now you may be asking, what are the symptoms, right? And so when I'm looking up symptoms for high blood pressure on heart.org, it says, if you came to find symptoms, there are none. Because there aren't any. Typically, if there are symptoms, you're usually too far gone. There's not going to be much to say when you're starting off in the damaging of your blood vessels and things like that. You're not going to feel those effects until it's too late. And so again, it's something we have to be mindful of, that symptoms don't exist. Did John Singleton have symptoms? We don't know. But clearly his family's saying, listen, you need to recognize this. So apparently they didn't know. And he didn't know either. So again, there are no symptoms early on. The only symptoms take place later on in life when we're talking about heart diseases, strokes, and it impacting other organs. So just to wrap up, what are strategies? Strategies, because they're important. We're talking about eating a well-balanced diet that's low in salt, right? So not getting the salt packets, or if you're eating from the Chinese store, getting the sauce on the side because they're high in sodium. We're talking about limiting alcohol. Listen, we love cocktails, right? We love a little cocktail here and there. But again, this is something that can impact our physical wellness. Because what happens when you drink? When you drink, you want to eat. And you want to eat something salty, because you say, or, you know, some carbs and things like that, because supposedly it helps impact the alcohol and lessen the effects. Regular physical activity. We need to get out there. We need to be walking. We need to be running. We need to be working out. Managing stress. This is difficult. This is difficult, managing stress, but it's so imperative. It's so imperative. Because if we don't manage stress levels, that impacts our blood pressure. So we have high blood pressure because we're always in high stress situations. Maintaining a healthy weight. Listen, do not go by the BMI. So if your doctor tells you your BMI is X, Y, and Z, for the majority of the world, that is inaccurate, right? But we do need to have a better understanding of what a healthy weight for us is. For me, I am 240 pounds. Listen, I'm in great physical shape, but for me, I don't feel comfortable at this weight. For me, I feel more comfortable at the 215, 220 range, right? I feel like my thighs aren't rubbing together. I have I feel better about myself. And I'm sure that impacts, again, my blood pressure and any other labs that I might have, even though the last time I was at the doctor, which was last August, everything was impeccable because I do work out. I do strength train. Strength training is big on reducing stress levels. Again, it's eustress, positive stress, healthy stress. So yes, it might elevate while you're working out, but then it'll bring your blood pressure down. Quit smoking. I know a lot of people who smoke, especially we have vapes now and things like that. So it makes it more vogue for us to smoke. But it impacts your blood pressure. It impacts you potentially getting not only cancer, but having heart disease, having strokes. If you do have high blood pressure, take your medications regularly. I know I always talk to my mother about this. So take your medicine. Make sure you take your medicine. You taking your medicine? Because unfortunately, especially as black folk, if we don't take it, it can mean something catastrophic. You can be the healthiest person in the world and still have high blood pressure. A friend of mine, he has it and he works out like a fiend. Because again, it's something genetic with black folk. And then work together with your doctor. You should always have a healthy working relationship with your doctor. Right? Because we're talking about somebody there to help save your life. Because at the end of the day, that's what matters. That's what matters. So definitely rest in peace to John Singleton, his family, to Luke Perry, or to anybody else who's, you know, dealing with issues related to their physical health, whether it's high blood pressure, heart disease, strokes, because it's a difficult journey. And that's why we have to be mindful in how we're approaching our physical health and utilizing the strategies that I just outlined to ensure that we're here to see another day. Listen, I appreciate you guys for tuning in. As always, please subscribe, please share with your people, share with a brother who can utilize this. Catch me on Instagram at Phil_Quadify, QUADEFY. Catch me on Twitter by the same name. Check out the website, quadifyllc.net. Grab some merch. Speaking of merch, we're having because May is Mental Health Awareness Month, all month long is 25% off everything on the site. So use promo code ProtectYourQuad. Peace.